Charlie with his linguini charting. He loses sometimes, but hardly he's BTC Charlie. But now he's GBP Charlie. It doesn't matter what he's charting. His trading is tough, but it's not all that bad with Charlie. He's got memes in the morning and more in the evening. It's Charlie. And when trading gets hard and support starts to lean, search Charlie.
Right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm having DJ troubles today picking music, so we might just go with whatever the hell I can find in the next 30 seconds. How's everyone doing? Is everybody winning? Is everyone loving this market? Bit of risk on, some nice rotations. And we'll see how long that lasts, shall we? But in the interim, we make the most of it. We're going to get the cheeky shill out of the way. This stream is brought to you by Bybit. If you want to show me some love, sign up on the ref link and preferably trade about $30 million a day. Well, that would be ideal. And then I can just walk into the sunset. But no, they are where I'm trading at the moment. And yes, I am from the UK, but I am also a resident of another country, so I'll say no more before I get thrown in jail. Obviously, everything in this stream is for educational purposes only, not financial advice. Do your own research, yada yada yada. Full disclaimer somewhere, don't know where, but that's pretty much it. Don't be a fucking idiot is the short version of it. Don't go all in on one trade and risk it all for a biscuit, particularly around an exceptionally known variable that is, who knows what it's going to do, right? What's everyone's thought process around ETF? I mean, obviously I'll go through mine in a minute. Just going to go through some of the chat. Hello, free billow change, yes. Changa Alaikum, I've butchered your name, I do apologise. John Henry, yeah, we can have a little look at Sol ecosystem and some of the memes that are on there. Weaver Beaver, hello my friend. Tingy Loop, let's go. I love my wife and beautiful kids. My wife's gonna hear that and think I'm saying that about her, but I only have one child as far as I'm aware, so good evening my friend. Hello Richard, my friend. It's this time of the week. Good morning fellow ETF speculators, let's go. That's probably as far as I'm going to go because there's a lot of chat firing off. But yes, good evening everybody, or good morning, or good afternoon. Long as fuck, but stay in spot, yes. Looking to get back into trading, need some refresh stuff in terms of the spaghetti chart. Do you have any streams, tutorials, or anything like that? Well, I do have something on my YouTube. It's quite old. I will dump it in the chat imminently. It's like 2021. Something like that. I really need to re-record it, but because there's so much more to it. But obviously, whenever people ask me stuff like that, it's a good chance to chill the Paragon group, where I've got 1,000,001 videos that cover spaghetti and altcoin rotations and all of that kind of wonderful stuff in there. Let's get you the link, and then we'll jump straight into it, and we will get going. There's lots of requests today. Dual listening, lovely. Anyone else having an issue with Binance API? Not me, mate. ETF approved, then price up. But how long? Don't know. Correction at some point takes us lower, then price grinds up again. Let's repeat. Yeah, I mean, I think there's this whole, like, there's a lot of game theory around how are people positioned into it, and what's the outcome going to be, and I'm just trying to take things a little bit day by day. Like, I completely got Monday wrong. Completely got Monday wrong. My like outlook for the start of the week was pretty much a sort of continuation of this slow bleed into into just like literally a mini bounce, like slow bleed down, little capitulation, a mini bounce, and then kind of continue to slow bleed as we risk off into ETF. And that was my thought process. So I'll give you just like a quick heads up and like how my week has gone. So basically for this time here, where was it? Like the bulk of Monday, I decided that actually my time would be better off dealing with IRL stuff, sorting wills and all that kind of crap. So just in case I cop it, and missed out on some really good rotations. So I was quite pissed off, if I'm being honest. And then came back and we nailed the bonk rotation. And then into, like, absolutely nailed the bonk rotation, and then nailed the BSV rotation, which was, yeah, a pretty good start. And if any of you were following me earlier, and got my TRB meme, then you probably made a nice little penny on TRB as well. So it's one of those scenarios where it's already pumped. Oh my god, I've missed the move. Oh my god. Look at big time or whatever it is. It's at 40-45%. And I was genuinely mildly annoyed, probably for the first time in a long time, that I've actually felt like, not FOMO, just that I'd done a bad take, and that the market had not been, at least in the remit or in the realms of what I'd anticipated. But it was recovered swiftly at the end of the day. Top is in if he has Canes to put in his will. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's just who my tax liabilities are going to go to. So my wife and child get a 50-50 split of all my tax liabilities. Charlie's human? Yeah, exactly that. But I think the bit that I was trying to highlight there was that it's not over until it's over type thing, and missing out on moves is not the same as losing money in stupid fucking situations and risking things when you shouldn't be risking things. Both of those, all three of those trades were, very, very good trades, and like, it's been a much better week than I anticipated so far. But yeah, the point is kind of always pay attention to the next trade, I guess, and don't throw the towel in. Yes, there's a lot of stuff going on. I was looking at this actually before the stream, which is the Sol ETH chart. There's a lot of chat going around at ETH BTC and whether ETH BTC's bottomed. I usually start with Bitcoin, but let's see what we've got in the chat. Have we got a lot of Solana maxis or ETH maxis? What do we think the next rotation is? Has ETH BTC bottomed? I'm going to ask the chat. Thoughts on TKST? I'll give you those while I'm waiting for responses on ETH BTC. I'm a private investor in TKST, and I like the platform. I think it's very good. It's low to medium market cap. I think it's got the potential to run, hence I've got a bag. But yeah, it's kind of one of those. Good evening, Frank. No, it looks like dog shit. ETH BTC takes a few more months and fucks everyone. Probably not bottomed till after ETF news. An area I'd be looking for ETH BTC longs. Manages to show some strength and push above 0.15 again. Yeah, I like that. I like the thought process. Hate trading on chainsaw coins, give you ETH. Holding ETH lowers testosterone. I like that. Yeah, some good thought processes in the chat. For me, like, weekly bull div, I suppose. The reason I don't like it is because I like divs that are on the extreme like this and doing this, not have gone back in, if that makes sense, because that's kind of like, that kind of price action. But whatever, I kind of take your point, and there's no, upside yet, and obviously that's not confirmed in terms of a momentum divergence. In theory, you need 2 white bars, as I've got them, to kind of confirm that. I mean, for me, like, ETH BTC is not great, but ETH USD, I am long on, and yeah, this isn't my real target, but we'll take the meme if it actually goes there. And purely based on the invalidations, right? It's just very, very clean in terms of this pivot area, yada, yada, yada. I've been in this trade for ages. If any of you have been on the stream before, then you would have seen this, so I don't really want to go over this too much. But yeah, it sucks, but pretty much everyone is trying to call the ETH bottom, as is standard. It's not even formed, just starting to make one. Yeah, exactly. And don't get me wrong, I think there is a good argument to move from a Bitcoin ETF to an ETH ETF speculation, and all of that kind of froth and attention appetite rotates from BTC into ETH. But it's going to be really interesting how the next few days play out in terms of Bitcoin and the whole ETF decision. Out of interest, how many people... this is the last time I'll ask you something for like a good 10-15 minutes, and then I'll just go ranting. And we'll go through some charts and some actual technicals and stuff. But how many people think the ETF is going to be approved or denied? Just write approved or denied. Or postponed. Because that is technically an option, I think. I want to get like a sentiment gauge of the 130 odd people here. Approved, 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 approved. Right. Delayed. Validated. Okay, so I mean, at a glance, we've got... Where's the rest of the chat on YouTube? Yes, Dingy Luke, my friend. So some people are on Twitch, and some people are on YouTube, but more people are on YouTube. So the vast majority of people, I can't tell whether it's 80 to 90%, probably somewhere around there, kind of think it's going to be approved. There's a smaller percentage that think it's going to be denied, and a smaller percentage that think it's going to be delayed. Delayed need to sell Bitcoin first. It feels like a very crowded trade on the basis of that, and I mean that is the exact sentiment that I get from crypto Twitter, right? Everyone seems to say, yeah, it's going to happen. Obviously, there's been those on YouTube get liquidated. No, I don't think so, my friend. Yeah, I think there's a lot of people very certain that it's going to be approved. And, I'm not a great news trader or anything in that realm. I don't do particularly well trying to pre-position into things like that. And, there's 2 camps, which is sell the news, like how much of it is actually baked into the fact that we've had this ETF narrative pretty much for a whole year, well, maybe not a whole year, but it was quite a while, wasn't it? And that once we've got spot ETF, it's going to just do this. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Yeah, is it sell the news? Please do the portfolio for 2024 like anticipated on X. Maybe. I'm not doing it now, Christ almighty. These things like a fuck ton of work, right? You don't just like pull one out your asshole. Had to ban a pleb. There we go. So, the memes. Denial will be so funny to watch. The memes and tweet deleting will be historical. Yeah, exactly. So, for me personally, like, I've got some spot Bitcoin, so if it goes absolutely apeshit, then I'm fine. If it does do what, I am kind of fearful of, which is be a sell the news event, as in do something ridiculous like this. So we've got our little range broken out of it, lovely. We start pulling back, and we get the approval. It's not going to go that high, I don't think, but we get the approval. It spikes up. and then suddenly we just see massive unloads. You know, how far it pulls back, who knows? This is kind of my thought process and scenario that I mentally prefer. Obviously, from a financial standpoint, I would massively prefer it if it just did that and it just yeeted up and there was just no chill. And it's quite possible, right? So, you know, in terms of previous sentiment, let's just go back over here. When we had, like, I think that candle was the Tesla candle. I could be wrong. But whenever the Tesla candle was, it was just like that was the ignition of the kind of the next part of the mania, right? And this could very well be that. So I'm trying not to just be, how do I put it, binary in my thought process of if it gets approved, it's going to do this, or it's going to do that, or it's just going to dump. You know, on the basis that it's approved, which is probably the most likely scenario on an odds basis anyway, what I'm going to look to be doing is seeing what is going on Spaghetti, and if anything, and particularly STX and ORDs start ripping with BTC, I'm just going to yeet into those. The rationale being that I've got some Bitcoin spot, and it's going to be quite difficult, I think, to really play that, but I can play an easy rotation on altcoins because it's what I'm used to. Now, the books are obviously thinner on altcoins, and it will be reasonably difficult to trade in those conditions, so I don't necessarily recommend it for people who aren't used to intraday scalping altcoins or intraday trading them. I'm often in and out for longer than what you'd normally call a scalp. Yeah, my average trade duration's probably about an hour and 10. But yeah, I don't want to be sat in a massive position either way. If it does get denied, it is just going to go fucking south. There's no way in my mind that it doesn't do that, right? Maybe a little pump when people see ETF, and then it just dies. Like, literally, it's going to be absolute carnage. So for me, that whole risk to the downside versus the risk to the upside, if we get it and we stay risk on for a little while and we keep getting rotations like these, for fuck's sake, like, these are 30% rotations. Like, 30%. Like, in what, a day and a half? Absolutely nuts. Absolutely nuts. A delay would be bullish. Well, this is the thing, is when people say, oh, it being approved is bullish, it being, like, I don't really think you can argue with it being denied, and a series of them kind of all being denied one after the other is bearish, right? I think that's pretty absolute. I think the market will react in that way. I think it will be interesting to see how the market reacts if it's delayed, and how the market will react if it's approved in the short term. I think in the long term, definitely bullish. Big catalyst for Bitcoin, big catalyst for crypto, you know, adoption and all that kind of wonderful stuff. If you zoom out to the weekly chart, you will probably not even notice whatever blip we end up getting if we get one, right? I think it will be pretty bullish over kind of a longer time horizon, but could we pull back eventually to kind of 30k? I mean, that would be fucking lovely from a technical perspective. And we've exhausted quite a lot of momentum up here on the weekly, but yeah. Where can you find that spaghetti thing? It's in my profile, mate. In my profile on Twitter, and below you should be able to find that. Yeah, I mean, this week is genuinely going to be a big week, so if you are balls deep with massive exposure, I'd be a little bit personally on the edge of caution. But it just looks so clean on weekly. Yeah, I mean, it's just absolute clean pivot, right? What was I gonna say? That there was a nice little flush earlier, and I obviously tweeted a picture of a toilet to kind of illustrate it. It was this. And for me, that was like, if any of you were long altcoins at this point, and you watched basically the entire order book just disappear right in front of you, and your altcoin just teleport sort of 7% down in about 5 seconds, Oh, that's probably what it's going to feel like when the ETF news comes out. Whether it, rips up or rips down, it's going to be, a highly volatile event, in my opinion. And based on that, you need to kind of manage your sizing and accept that there might not be as much liquidity on the other side of your trade for you to exit at reasonable prices. Was anyone actually trading this earlier? Because it was fucking nuts. How weak was the all-time high sweep on NJ overnight? Yeah, I've not really traded INJ too much, to be honest with you. Charlie, how do I know whether my perp position is too big for a certain alt? You probably don't unless you're looking at depth of book, and you actually look at book depth and you have those charts active. Vanex CEO says spot Bitcoin ETFs are all getting ready to basically list on Thursday. Yeah, I mean, it would be great, right? And it would be great if they all go through and that's it. Wonderful. But then you kind of have to start saying, well, what's the big catalyst for crypto, which is, majorly speculative premium. Have I been airdrop farming? Not nearly as much as I should. No. The thing is, like, I was going to say something very rude. Airdrop farming is great if your time to reward makes sense, right? For me to faff around, setting up wallets, doing lots of various tasks, voting on governance, keeping track of all those wallets, putting claims in, doing all that kind of shit, and then having to put that in my tax report, feels like a massive ball ache. Whereas if I can just jump on a perp, smash some money into it, watch it run 10, 15, 20, 25%, and then sell and make enough, to make a dent, then my personal opportunity cost of that time is probably bigger than the airdrops will be. But I think airdrops are absolutely incredible for people who are starting off with like a very small or no balance, basically. Back in the day, there was like the Cope airdrop in 2020, and that was like 10k of basically free money for people who joined a Discord early. And I think that whole process of people getting basically big bumps to their portfolio at decent times, in terms of it was pretty much like the start of the run, and obviously there's a lot of incentive for projects and projects and protocols to give out airdrops to get people onto their ecosystem and get people using and locking up supply, and inversely making it easier to pump the charts because there's a lower circular supply and all that kind of wonderful stuff. And obviously there's a nice narrative that X% is locked up and staked. So like that whole circular flywheel of social interaction to airdrop rewards works really well. We've seen it work really well loads of times in crypto. We've seen people farm like 5, even 6-figure airdrops, just from one airdrop at a time. I think some people have even done 7 figures, but that's kind of doing multiple wallet spot farms, all that kind of stuff, which is incredible if you think about it. You've voted on a protocol and you've done some stuff, you've put some coins somewhere, locked some coins up, and here you go, have $1 million for that. Seems perfectly reasonable, right? Yeah, it's not really my bag. I've probably got some airdrops somewhere. I've staked a few bits and pieces, but it's not like a huge active thing. But if you have a reasonably small portfolio, it's definitely something you should look at, because you hit one of those that's lesser known but of a higher value, and you can really give your portfolio a nice bump. Uni airdrop was incredible for beginner a couple of years ago. Yeah, it was. Playing my dim? No, I've not. See, that's what I mean. That's another one. So yeah, so for me, Bitcoin, I've got some spot BTC that's just part of my like investment holdings. There's no major trade for me at the moment to take. Talked about like this kind of logic, but yeah, it's all about sensible stops, managing position sizing, and yeah, I'm not too fast on BTC anyway. My personal view of ETH is it looks good on USD pair, and I'm in a long, and I have been in a long for some time, back in December. It is just ranging. Is this a distributive range? Don't know. Am I willing to take this trade on and have some form of, you know, swing trade exposure to the upside on ETH? Yes, I am. That's it. Oof, soul rugging. Okay. Really call that a rug, my friend. What amount of capital in a port is going into a bull run would you class as small, medium, etc.? It's a difficult question because there's different amounts of money. Money's different to different people. If you're sat in a £200,000 or $250,000 a year job and you're trading with $1,000, I'm going to say that it's not worth your time. You know, you're earning more than you would be earning with that $1,000, and if you're chasing like trades for $10, you're probably just better off going down McDonald's for an hour, earning a wage down at McDonald's, kind of working there, right? Like, it's difficult because if you want to build a skill set and you want to trade for a living eventually, then that's kind of part of the cost, right? Is that you're going to have to participate in the market at some time. But in terms of your personal, what's big and small, $1,000 isn't going to cut the mustard for you if you're going to work and you're getting paid, $1,000 a day basically. So that's why I always struggle. And obviously the cost of living is different in every single country. So like in the UK and where I live, it's quite expensive, whereas other parts of the world it's quite cheap. So if you're saying like Thailand, I think is quite cheap or reasonably priced in terms of US dollar. So yeah, it's very, very difficult to kind of say. But I mean, I would always think that if you wanted to be a full-time trader, you need to have 2 years of living expenses covered, and then you need your trading stack on top of that, which is quite a lot of money. Good time frame scalping, yeah. It's not about earning for everybody. Yeah, I mean, if that's your... Yes, it is. If this is a cycle top, it could be said that it was a pretty disappointing cycle. Yeah, kind of. From your experience, the longer the consolidation is, more likely to go up or down. I mean, in a trending market, you'd tend to bet on upside. Like, why try and be the smart guy trying to fade the trend? Like, it's paid to be bullish, like, for a long time, right? Yes, we have pullbacks, and yes, we almost certainly will have another pullback at some point in time. Like, even if you're sat here of the opinion saying it's going to 100k, right? It's going to 100k. Yeah, great. It's not just going to do this, is it? In no universe does it do that. I've been through them all. And none. When you say it's been a disappointing cycle, like, this is where I struggle. This is where I struggle massively. It's because my sort of performance from the last, I suppose 4 months, and at the start of last year, like, if you're looking at the total Bitcoin market cap, and you're going through it, divided by Bitcoin, let's not use that one. If you're looking at this, and you're saying, well, I really wanted another huge run, here. That huge expansion that we've had before. Probably on a diminishing basis. You're probably not going to get that 8x again because of various factors. People are poorer, it's more known, yada yada yada. But that is that for me, is a very, very ridiculous target, and it's very ambitious. But I'm pretty happy with this. I'm not gonna lie. This cycle, if this is the end of it, which I'm not saying it is, but if it is, well, it's pretty fucking good, I think. You've had, oddly, you had on-chain gems to start off with, and then you kind of had, so you had things like RLB, pumping, Unibot, stuff like that. You then had like a massive Bitcoin run, then had a massive Sol run, so it kind of went a little bit opposite in terms of cycle, and then it went back into the memes, so like dog with hat and all that kind of stuff. Now I've not got any position on width, but I'm conscious that someone asked earlier. I don't really like trying to trade these, as in I'm not gonna just I don't think you can anyway. I'm not sure there are perps anyway with dog with hat. But strong downtrend, and literally you can just meme TA these kind of coins, yeah. Reclaimed the level, off we go. Rejected the level, well fuck that. Maybe I'll buy again if it goes back up here. I don't want to try and knife catch a fucking meme coin. That is asking for trouble, particularly heading into an ETF where we're likely to be a little bit risk off, and even if the ETF gets approved, there's probably going to be a big focus on Bitcoin, on whatever the hell Bitcoin does, not some Solana dog shit, literal dog with hat. John Henry toy, just for you. Neon. Woof. See ya. Oh, it's almost one of my favorite fade setups, up here. So I love these big parabolic runs, big parabolic run, and then a lower high, and then it just fucks off and just traces back. I've got no idea what the fuck it does. But to be fair, I wouldn't want to be taking on risk going into tomorrow. But I would be so bold as to say that's a fairly bullish buyback in an area that you would expect some kind of demand to be. This isn't clean at all. Oh, that's fucking massive. It's a full-on redacted box, but 400. I'm probably gonna stop with these, mate. I'm gonna go to some charts that I want to talk about. I would basically assume that that's the demand, and that unless if we reclaim this, then I'd be quite happy in that position. But otherwise, if it starts dying off and coming down to here, then I'd be selling it. I mean, it's hard to just trade spot positions for me personally, particularly after literal parabolic moves. If you I always use parabolas to kind of look for that euphoric trend, and that is literally that. It's kind of happened. Would love to have a P&L update on the 10 bond trade. I mean, I think fair play to the guy. I've been really controversial in my thoughts around it, I suppose, because most people are take profit, and it's all the people who would never have got into that position in the first place. Never. Think of Tree's comment on our wax tweet. Oh, what? Fucking pay attention to half the shit that people say on Twitter. But regardless, I mean, he basically did P&L flex at the top, which is always bad juju. As soon as you do go to post P&L, it's usually, or collect clout in my case, as soon as I feel like I want to post this shit on Twitter, it's basically like takes them off the table. That's like my, not rule, but yeah, if I want to go and flex on the timeline that I got a rotation right or whatever, then usually it's because I'm pretty happy with it and it's probably time to shave like at least 50% off. But yeah, I mean, it's not gone well, has it, for him? It was basically up here, it was 12 million. Was it 12 or 13? You did it somewhere up here. So, I mean, he's still got a decent kind of whack. Whatever that is, about 5 point something million probably, if he hasn't closed any of it. But yeah, I've been trading bonk a bit because it has been very high beta. Pain in the ass to execute on. But yeah, literally just, you know, that's the trend. And this is... There have been some meme levels, and all I am looking for continuously on lower time frame is rotations. As someone just asked, is there a way to anchor the chart on the left and keep it there? So to you, Kevin, no, not that I'm aware of. I don't think you can just, you know, keep it anchored and just leave it there. The only way to do it, and how I do it anyway, is I'm scrolling like a lot of the time to try and see what the beta is, particularly around market pivot points. So the theory being that a pivot point, i.e. a low on BTC, will tell you when kind of alts stopped selling off as a result of Bitcoin being shite. And when Bitcoin sells off, alts sell off with it. If Bitcoin is doing nothing, alts will kind of do whatever they want, right? Sometimes they sell off a bit, sometimes they move up, sometimes one alt just runs, sometimes, you know, the whole stack of them run together. Like, who knows? But they will operate in isolation. But regardless, whenever Bitcoin moves, alts tend to have some form of reaction to it because they are all essentially beta of Bitcoin. And half of my edge is probably not half, but a part of my edge is probably how I interpret this after, you know, years of looking at it and scroll between it. So like earlier there was a bonk rotation. Let's go back to it because I tweeted about it. There was a bonk rotation that I tweeted about where essentially had bonk selling off massively and kind of dislocating itself from the rest of the market. So in that instance, I'm looking for a bit of mean reversion because the whole market's doing this and not really doing much in terms of like, you know, this is just a channel of beta, and good old bonk is absolutely getting shafted, which in my mind means that if there's a reversion play, so if the market starts picking up a little bit, or even if the market just stays sideways, then whatever's happened on bonk probably gets, you know, kind of absorbed back into that beta band. And it did, so I think I might have got the timing wrong on this. But it wasn't a particularly like impressive run up. And then obviously you had this huge wick. And then the second one that I posted was this, which ran to the highs and didn't even have the decency to sweep them properly. Which always tells you that it's start seeing, you know, intense selling at the highs and basically no reaction. Then look, starting to lose some levels and it's lights out. Let's see if we can reclaim and see what B is doing at the moment. Get some live stuff on the go. ETF's denied, boys. That's it. Seeing some risk off on altcoins, which is nice. Kind of jumps into the theory. So yeah, like I'm happy to play rotation still up until the point whenever ETF gets approved, but I'm literally taking one position at a time. I'm being very careful with my stops and being careful with my position sizing as well. You know, I'm not at max deployment at this point in time, but I do want to take some trades. One, to take advantage of the rotations. Two, so that I'm kind of occupied, because I don't want to be too bored and get into some dumb boredom trades or anything like that. Need a sprinkle of autism to operate spaghetti chart. One of my strengths. Good. Yeah, you definitely do. I mean, it's a really retarded way of looking at the market. And to be honest with you, if you're better at identifying narratives early or picking just a couple of charts to focus on, then that's probably a better way for you. This style has evolved for me and me personally because of how I see the market and how I've traded over the last few years in terms of trying to get the fastest horse all the time. And I want the big winner, right? I want the big one. I want the one that's going to run. I want the one that's going to run hardest. We all do. And the way that I tend to pick those up in the majority of cases, or the way that I jump on to those outliers, is I use spaghetti to identify those outliers. I'm not the guy that says, oh my god, in 3 months' time, SHIB is going to be a higher market cap than Doge, right? I'm not like GCR. I'm not like, I don't possess that kind of forecaster style, if you like. Nor do I want to. Like, that's not been one of my goals. That's not been one of my objectives. It's not how I want to operate in this market. I'm quite happy trying to just find the strength based off what other participants are doing and how they are positioning themselves and how they are chasing strength. And much spaghetti. I mean, I think if you want the max version, it's the TradingView premium one with like all of these. I think that's a few $100. I think it's like $200, $300. The best thing to do is to look out for the Black Friday sales, which kind of end of October, end of November, something like that, whatever the hell Black Friday is, and grab them then. And equally, there's lots of people that do giveaways and all that kind of stuff. TradingView usually runs a promo to do it, so it's kind of worth paying attention around that time and trying to bang a free one. I just turned up. Hope all's well. Yeah, it is, mate. It's all good. LDO, yes, that was me. Certainly has been good, and it's actually been quite good on some of the rotations. Like, even if you look at this this last rotation, very good, very good in terms of strength. And SHIB with the whole Doge, the dog died, didn't die. Only in crypto. So we've had an XRP pump because somebody said that maybe there'll be an XRP ETF. Yeah, apparently, my dog told me that the XRP is going to be the next ETF. Wonderful. Yes, let's go to LDO. I actually did another LDO chart. I think this is the one that doesn't have all the history. I have to excuse the mess of my watch list. This is the one with the full history. Yeah, I mean, LDO looks absolutely wonderful for A, the B to play, and B, just genuine low time frame relative strength. Could be a really nice play if we see some strength again, like this one, bonk being typically high beta. Time. Sol. I've taken Sol off the colouring. Just seen it in there. This ETF coin everyone's talking about? There was an ETF coin, but it's pretty fucked. I mean, I bought a bag of it a long time ago, and then it went mental, and then it just seemingly disappeared. If that's the one you're on about, I don't know if there's been another one since. Yeah, look at that bonk beta. See a nice little sell-off. Bonk's good. For me, like, depending on how we react, ETF-wise, like, LDO basically sat at all-time highs. Like, I love the whole all-time high breakout retest. I've got a tweet somewhere which basically just says, if you mark up previous all-time high, and usually there's a bit of chart, like price action, then we do that, we burst over it, because a lot of people put their stops here, and then everything kind of sells off because people are like, every bag holder is now in profit. and you tend to get a sell-off. And then this, and somewhere around that previous all-time high level, and particularly if people get bored but price is holding, is usually a nice entry for continuation. Or you get a nice 50 RSI reset, or vice versa, you get the strong sell-off, and then you get a strong buyback of a pretty dramatic kind of dip. Like that's there where I would be taking positions, and my invalidation would just be and size such that it's covered off underneath that previous all-time high as like a form of resistance or support. Sorry. Black Friday sales goated? Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. But yes, LDO is looking very, very strong. I know a lot of people who have positioned in it, and this is what I mean, is my risk profile is far, far more conservative than a lot of people who are just aping into these highs after what, in my opinion, is a very, very nice move over what has been weeks, if not months, and with a big, big, big decision looming. ETH BTC not looking particularly strong, but hey, if we've timed the bottom, I can claim clout with my ETH trade. So, from a clout and social media perspective, who gives a shit? And obviously I'm joking. I'm here to make money and not social media clout. And it is fucking disgusting how retweeting stuff like, hello, look at my portfolio from the greatest bull market of all time, £10,000 to $500,000, shall I do it again? Like, retweet, comment. Actually gets engagement. But I guess such is the wonderful world of social media. We've been through ETHBTC, mate. Been through ETHBTC 2. Yeah, I'm afraid. I don't really want to talk about that one anymore. But yeah, my favourites at the moment are Sol. I still think Sol has quite a bit of strength left in it, and it has been very, very good. You've seen some meme TA, but I am just not looking for huge fresh positions going into any form of ETF news. We are kind of at this wonderful pivot moment in terms of this, and so far we've rejected. If we get an ETF decision, and presuming odds pull back a bit, then I would be looking to load up if we got down here. Vice versa, if we don't, then I can always jump on with that as a kind of pivotal position and grab a bag of Sol, as hopefully it just gets sent. You've got the meme kind of trend line going down here and all that kind of stuff. Like, I'm sure there's people on Twitter who trade channels. I'm not one of them. I trade relative strength mostly, but yes, I think Sol's probably still got a bit more juice in it. Thoughts on INJ? I mean, I've not really traded INJ for my sins. Bit of a disappointing break, as someone said. This whole range here. There was a beautiful range on INJ and on Tia. Tia was the other one. Yeah, I've not traded INJ for my sins. It's a fundamentally pretty good coin, and it's in an absolute mad run, right? Absolute mad run. I wouldn't want to be trying to short this, even though this is one of my favorite short setups. Just that simple parabolic-ish run up, and then even that failure to break all-time highs, that's quite nice. But I don't want to be jumping on the short side and being aggressive and getting blown out. I'm quite happy to short on low time frames when I can see people longing tops and getting ridiculously offside, and us start to come back and start closing that pressure on a coin that is either dead or just having that massive parabolic move with very, very thin books. I'm quite happy to do it then, but something like this, it's just great. I remember marking BTC levels 0.06, 0.05 zone, 0.04 to 0.25 a year ago. I haven't seen an actual signal on that yet. Yeah, and that's it, and that's a good way to think about it, is the sentiment's one thing, but actionable signals. I mean, how do you want to play this? Do you just want to balls deep long now? Like, there are some very janky divergences on a weekly basis, but what's your trigger? Like, for me, I like reclaims of levels. I like some form of low time frame strength, i.e. relative strength. Oh look, XRP, hello my friend. So stuff like this to say that actually, we've had a nice dip across the board. oh look, everyone's kind of piling back on XRP. Like, let's go. Let's see what the XRP chart looks like and see if we can kind of grab a trade. Like, I'm not going to do it obviously because I'm sat here. You wonderful people, yeah, probably not. Quite hard to jump on board without any form of invalidation. Like, literally, that's a kind of 1 minute candle that's, yeah, probably got away from me. Maybe if we start pushing and no, I don't want to trade that. Fuck it, it's XRP. You know, what I like and what I liked about BCH the other day. BSV was this. Was that we were basically here. And it was in this when it started showing some strength. And obviously it got some levels marked out before. And just go, well actually this is at quite an interesting pivotal point for it to be showing some strength. Let's just load up and just fire some fucks into it and see what happens. And it nearly went to that wonderful $100 target. You know, in terms of time and trade, that was literally like none. Same like TRB earlier. It's just timing was on fleek, as the kids would say. I think that's right. Any non-boomer confirm that. Hinge bouncing a weekly view app, time will tell. Ah, someone watches Magus' streams, I see. Love to see it. But the same process of watching low time frame spaghetti, like if you watch low time frame spaghetti, like even just for like a day, and you just start, like maybe have all of these as grey. Like, if you have all of them as grey, and you just watch it, and you just track back to kind of ones that perform really well. So when you watch it and you watch like a JTO rotation, I haven't looked at JTO. Isn't it? This is what I mean, like from a daily perspective, like this has just been absolute carnage. Like at some point, this is probably going to absolutely punish some shorters. Let's see what funding is like. This is a proxy. I'm not going to go into OI and all that bullshit. I'll let Magus do that. Yeah, see, this is where I like trying to jump in on rotations if it's reasonably liquid, but you know, it doesn't particularly look it, because you've got a much better invalidation. You've got like this low, and you probably want to swing it a little bit higher, right? Let's see what we're doing. In depth. It's not particularly great. But yeah, that's a better trade in my opinion than XRP, and particularly because it's been something down only. But in the context of like what you're trading, you're kind of literally trading at the lows, and you're pretty much hoping that this is going to be a bottom. And you know, if you want to be really aggressive and it does start properly running, you can push it because of where it is. So I try and always look at where are we in the context of higher time frame. Do I really want to be long at this point in time, and do I really want to swing? Like, personally, not with the ETF coming in, but let's just pretend that wasn't happening for a second. Like, this is a good place to try and catch a decent rotation, particularly if you know, you've started seeing it bottoming out and there's a bit of low time frame relative strength. And to be honest, it's been down only since the launch, and you know, a move will start getting it back on the radar again. Yada yada yada. Actually quite a reasonable live example of, you know, finding a chart, using spaghetti, and then deciding whether or not you want to jump in on it. my microphone fading out? I don't think so. It's popping up on the, what's it called? Streamlabs thing. How do I approach the RSI on multiple time frames? How do you establish the regime from strong to short term? So that's a really good question. And I've done like a ton of content on RSI. But what I tend to do is just flick through timeframes as you've suggested, and just to try and work out like who is in control. Like it's very difficult for charts that haven't been around for a particularly long time. I'm trying to think of something that we've not really talked about, but it's been reasonably in play. Maybe ordinals. Jump for conference call. Cheers, Walt Winters. Thank you for being here. Thank you even more for signing up to my Bybit account, to Bybit, using my ref link, and trading millions of dollars in volume a day. You're an absolute legend. So, the big thing about RSI and what people kind of... Actually, I'll give an even better example, because I will tell you about a shit trade that I did because of RSI, and because okay, so I will tell you how not to use RSI and how I got baited into being an already pumped or, which is very unlike me, because I'm usually very good at just buying into strength, and this is like, so I had a nice long break over Christmas, New Year's. Hope you all did too. And you know, if this is your kind of first stream, you'll know that I'm trying to be a little bit transparent in terms of my mistakes and not just suck myself off every single time, every single stream. And whilst I did start the stream by saying, you know, the bonk trade and the BSV trade and all that stuff, here is one where I basically marked at this range on tier, and then we actually had a really nice mid range as well, because if you look at all the kind of price points that it kind of interacted with, it was actually pretty clean. So it was a really nice range in terms of just how price interacted with each of the levels. I'm going to rewind and do the replay mode, because I know what happens and I also know how I played it. And what I was looking for, there was relative strength on this move here, and then it kind of died off a bit. And what happened when it died off is we had these divs across here, and not only was it a div on Awesome Oscillator, but it was pretty clean on RSI as well. And if you go down to like, no, it was the 15 minute, I was going to say, I'm sure it was 15 minute, like, I think I was on the perp on Bybit. It was actually a little bit more extended than that. But what I was convinced of is that this was going to be the rotation, and it was the rotation, so relative strength here was quite strong. It started getting a bit weaker in terms of the beta, and it kept getting a bit weaker, and we had these divs here and these divs here, and I did not take a position. Usually what I would do is I would take some form of position like this. So you know, you can start seeing my thought process around here is essentially your value area high, or whatever you want to call it. This this high over here was this sort of previous high, and the thought process is that we just break out on the basis of we've had pretty much probably not that high, it's probably more like that. We've had pretty wild pumps in terms of when very strong in play coins do break out and they do take the previous highs up here somewhere. So again, it's probably a bit ambitious. Apologies about doing this on the fly. And what my thought process was is that because we had all of these divergences, that we would actually get a decent pullback and some form of sweep of just any form of low time frame level. So just any, like literally even just this here. Or maybe like this, like literally it dip into here and I'd get long, and then I could long it, and then my entry would be better, and you know, that's kind of my invalidation. You know, it's moved lower, I can afford to take a bigger position size, and yeah, we can target, you know, a decent run. The problem with like low time frame RSI divs, when you are facing into, you know, what's a pretty good sort of 4-hour reset in terms of this move, and you know, a good range reclaim, is that I kind of and a strong relative strength altcoin in terms of spaghetti, like that combo tends to override the little divs, and being greedy on an entry has not done well in these conditions generally. So if any of you were here back in whatever it was, look at the chart. Back here, where I set my rune alerts for that wonderful pullback that never came. So there was literally like I had alerts down here. I expected there to be a pullback, and look what I missed out on purely for a small percentage gain on my entry. Like literally, that was my alert, never went off, just literally fucked off. So that was October. So you know, I kind of squandered the lesson of being greedy with my entries for like a 15-minute div in the context of one of the strongest performing charts in all of crypto, if not the strongest performing chart on that day. So that's an example of how not to do it, and I'll use that because I was a bit out of sync, having just had 2 weeks of basically eating, drinking, and being lethargic. But generally the context is your higher time frame RSI will tell you a picture about who is in control. You know, over 50 it's bulls, under 50 it's bears. For context, you know, the daily or the 4 hour are the best ones that I look at, and I will be like, okay, well, on this basis, like anything over 50, you know, unobjectively, you kind of say, well, we've tried, the bulls have tried and they failed, and now the kind of bears are in control. So if you are looking at rune, you know, more likely to look for a short into that, yeah, something like that. If you want to take a short entry, fine. But I know that the context of the market generally, shorts have been getting punished for a long time, and I'm not particularly great at shorting. But equally, RSI is really useful for looking at kind of overextended divergences, and by that I mean anything above the kind of 70 region, and then it starts to div, particularly triple divergences. So you don't see them very often, but where price does this, price is doing that, and RSI is doing this, that's usually a really clean signal to fade. But equally, you have to be kind of mindful of the context. You know, have you caught the generational top? Maybe. But I try and just take like 10% or something like that out of it. I'm not particularly greedy on the short side. Does that answer your question? I actually did have the one that actually did have a script that gave divergent signals on different time frames. And actually did that that whole context piece for me. Never really used it. Do you market or limit ordering into positions? That's a good question. Depends on the context. I try and limit, but I do try and limit. It depends how... Love the music. Oh, thank you. Is it too loud? Too quiet? If it's too loud, it's been that level for an hour, so maybe I should ask that question at the start. So yeah, typically I try and limit, but invariably there are times, particularly when the market is moving fast, like at the moment, where you have to kind of market into position. And I don't always clip in for the full shebang. There's a couple of reasons for that. One is you're quite visible if you start smashing in, you know, just one big clip. If you enter a position. Enter a position like, let's go down to a 1 minute chart. If I enter a position here, I go, yeah, that's the bottom, right? Bosh. And I've max sized it. Any test or any move against me, I'm probably going to be panicking a little bit. Whereas if I start looking at this now and we're pulling back and I'm like, great, if we can actually hold up here and not test this and start leveling out, I can add to this position. So I add to this position, great. And my average is now here, and I've actually just started sort of scaling in as opposed to yeeting it and then shading my bands. And what I try and do on the way out is, let's say we go to the range highs, is I'll just stack some limits, you know, up. One, to manage my own profit taking, because I'm sure everyone's done it, right? Where you get your trade, you're in this trade, you're in this absolutely great trade, you call the bottom, lovely, and then it starts going up, and your take profit is here, and then you kind of change the trade thesis. You go, well, it's actually pumping pretty hard. I think this is now gonna run all the way up to here and run these highs. So you do this, you change your take profit. And what happens? We break out and we just round trip the entire trade. And then we go, oh no, it's gonna bounce. And then bong, hard stopped. But you would have been fine if you'd actually run it properly. Taking your original trade thesis, essentially. This is back, all cancelled. Hello, my friend. So yeah, it also depends. So there was a trade on Bonk where I went, where I managed to get quite a lot of limit fills at a time that I didn't expect to get them, really. And then I had to clip in for some more, but it was over here. I think it was over here in this little box. And that candle there, basically. Boomerism. Oh no, it was there. Yeah, we just like recognize price action. So it was this basically, this whole this whole grind up process. And just reject it, you know, rejection, and then get filled in this candle and just keep going. And I think I got filled in there a little bit as well, and then I marketed into some of this, and then, you know, took on a pretty decent position size in here and, you know, ran that and got most of that. I did not run it to the highs because it was nice enough. It was decent size with the very tight validation, but that was kind of a mix. It was limits into markets, into breakout, and then a lot of those were limits. Hopefully that answers your question in a bit more detail on kind of why I'd use one over the other, because sometimes you just don't get the opportunity to get filled by limits. You can use like limit chase stuff, an execution terminal such as in Silico to do limit chase. Right. It's 8:15. So I monitor RSI alerts when it crosses above and below the oversold overbought thresholds on multiple timeframes. Oh, that's what that indicator at the bottom is. Actually, no, the indicator at the bottom is doing divs. I don't know. I just determine TP levels. Well, that is very difficult, unfortunately. So the reality of it is that for stuff like bonk, it's very, very hard, and obviously I did not time the top, so you know, I am quite conservative in terms of what I've caught and what I've done. So I'll go back. Sorry, this piece of shit. So if I go back to like that trade, you know, I got carried out here basically, and there was obviously a lot more fuel in the tank, partly because I was asleep, and I hadn't been leaving too many positions open overnight. But like literally in these kind of conditions with altcoins as they've been, I'm just hesitating a little bit because, you know, it feels like things are changing a little bit in terms of like these rotations. Yeah, they're getting a little bit more brutal to the downside. See it, world. You see what I mean? Like that's exactly what I'm talking about. It's been a combination of things. So depending on kind of position size and liquidity available in the market, etc. But usually I've been trading something pretty liquid. What I've been looking for is just changes in market structure on low time frame. If your trade thesis has changed, so particularly if the beta for that asset that you're trading. So let's say I take a if I inverse this and I say, okay, well, Wild's breaking out, right? I'm gonna take a trade on Wild, and let's say I get in here, and great, I'm in a Wild, wonderful. That's market is not liking this, is it? Yeah, let's say I'm in that. If we start seeing WLD underperforming the market, then my trade thesis has changed. Like if we start seeing that weakness go. So it's been doing this and now it's really starting to do this and actually starting to die off a bit. Well, that's kind of my thesis broken, and that can be at different points. You know, it could have gone 5%, it could have gone 10%, it could have gone 20%. That's one of the ways that I like to take profit. If you're moving into a zone that has got quite sort of pivotal resistance, so looking at, you know, bonk as an example, like, you know, I tweeted about it earlier, but these highs, but actually if you start looking at this and start looking at like the previous level that it was at, like you're basically smashing your face into what was sort of former support or resistance, yeah? So if you've got, and high time frame divergences, even though it's a 2 hour, which I don't particularly use, but point kind of stands still. But it is very difficult. And the other way is just simple EMAs. In trending conditions, EMAs are very, very good. Very, very good. And even just visually, just showing you that, you know, length of trend, long, reasonably short, very short, in terms of we're retesting that now. It's a very messy chart. Let's say it that way. Yeah, when we start interacting with the MAs and there's like no reaction, and I'm quite happy to kind of just flip and just close my position. Let's say I was long from down here. We start seeing this, you know, we start seeing momentum basically dying off. We're retesting. We failed to like reclaim this level here. Like we've literally sat with it as resistance a few times. Like this is not looking good. Do you know what I mean? Like would I open a long here? No. So if I'm in a long here, like, do I really want to be sat in this, waiting for it just to fucking die? Nah, not really. Especially with everything that we know is going on with ETF, etc. So yes, I'm going to summarize. We've got 10 minutes left. If there's any massive questions, we can go. But M30 and Natron Pleasant, yeah, they are. yeah, hourly and 30 minutes are good as well. So my most used time frames, I'll use the weekly in terms of getting some form of high time frame context, like particularly when you're looking at like levels like this and you're looking at like range breakouts. Obviously not too helpful right now, but certainly good for context. You know, like in the context of the market, like these are the levels that we are operating at in terms of relative strength. Yes, Sol's one of the better altcoins in terms of its performance and strength, but you know, it's just something to be conscious of that like I mean, it can remain overbought for longer than we can all remain solvent trying to short it, right? But it's just it's been a good run, so maybe not be super aggressive up here and have some invalidation on your long thesis, etc. You know, even here, like we're losing levels, lights out. What's going on with BTC? Not a lot, interestingly. This is the kind of de-risk on altcoins that I was expecting to see, but I have not positioned for in terms of short. So yeah, I mean, my advice over the next few days is pay attention to the news. Definitely set up some form of news feed in terms of Twitter, TweetDeck, something like that. It's not TweetDeck now, is it? But or streams like we've got in Discord of just news bots that ping in. Maybe. Still in 9J spot back higher. How would you fudge you out of it? Looking for your bearish thoughts. How to fudge you out of it? I don't like trying to fud people out of bags. I think that, you know, you got in your bags for a reason. You could. I'm not sure if this is Wickofian in terms of distribution schematic. I'm not a Wyckoff trader, but you could load that up and probably scare the shit out of yourself. The standard thing for me is like this: parabolic run, distributive range, which, you know, we don't know is distributive until it's done, unironically, which is why it's fucking useless in my mind. But there you go. We've swept all those highs. We've come back in. And basically, if there's like no support here, then it's just going to carry on to the range lows, and then it'll probably just die off for a decent pullback. And yeah. But INJ has been one of the strongest performers, so if you're up massively, just shave a little bit off. You know, I always like to try and hedge my bets a little bit. So I kind of say, okay, well, I bought this at $16. If it goes to $100 like I think it's going to do, am I really going to miss the 10% that I took here? You know, that if we sell off and we die and we go down here and I end up selling my entire spot bag, or whatever your plan is to actually, you know, not get completely fucked, or we lose the 200 EMA or some shit like that, right? Like, I don't know, like, this is why I try and go into every bag and spot position, etc., with some form of exit plan, so that if we do get a pullback, for one, I know what I'm doing, and two, I've got a plan to eventually realize some profits, otherwise it's just going to round trip the whole thing. But I mean, structurally, from INJ, you would assume that this is a consolidation kind of before the next leg up, unless obviously the Bitcoin ETF gets denied and the entire market goes to shit. It's really difficult because I find it as one of the, you know, when you are in position, you have to actively manage it. You're not biased necessarily, but it becomes harder to have a clearer view because you don't want to contradict yourself and be wrong, because you have a position in it and you might have literally bought that Pico top, and admitting that you're wrong is actually quite difficult. It will just recover, be fine. Round tripping is equally painful. You buy down here, oh, why didn't I sell these highs? You sat down here going, oh, I'm a fucking idiot, like I could have had this. Tough process if you mentally beat yourself up over it. Like when I had Rune, I was just like, right, I'm gonna sell this much at $9, this much at $20, and this much at $100. Bam, but boom. I calculated what that number would be, pissed myself, and went, okay, wonderful. And then as we started getting close to those levels, I basically set limits and just sold. Very binary bet. Very binary. That was really easy to get execute on, really easy to have a theory, really easy to manage. So I hope that helps. Morning. Good morning, Adrian. What solid news channel? I mean, Tree News is probably the best. Because he's not going to just LARP a tweet, I don't think. Maybe he will. Yes. So post Bitcoin ETF approval, pay fucking attention to this and what's strong. My suspicions will be that STX, not SPX. It's very strong. Ordinals, very strong. But there's a very likely scenario in my mind, which is basically Bitcoin is just the one. Bitcoin just does this. And then we may get some ETH, BSV, and BCH strength, and maybe XRP now as well. That's kind of rumored, but that's what I'll be looking for. And on rejection, I'm just going to sit out and just go and just conjure up some memes, just fucking laugh. But basically everyone who went super risk on into it, sorry if that's you. And on postponement, it's probably going to be a real nobody fucking knows what's going on. Is this bullish, bearish? It's bearish, and who the fuck knows? I'll wait. Oh, excuse me. I will wait for 400 fucking
Laat dat maar aan jou over. Met het starterspakket van ING ben je er klaar voor.
I'm not sponsored by this this advert before anyone suggests it that I'm shilling. I think it's Dutch. Guess where my VPN is, boys. Yes, what was I saying? If we do get that postponement, then I think the best course of action will be to just chill and let Bitcoin do its thing. And what we'll probably get is a month or two of ranging Bitcoin, which will be fucking incredible for altcoins. I imagine it'll sell off a bit, and then I imagine it'll recover, and then I imagine it'll just range for a period. And that ranging time is where I will make meat of my money. So that's kind of a practical way to end things. Busted. Shilling random Dutch stuff. Yeah, exactly. ZachX would be teased. ZachX would see me for shilling. I don't even know what the fuck it is. Music's a bit loud since the song. That's alright. I'm gonna go now anyway. So yeah, not the most useful, but that's because I'm not super risk on into this big event, and as you can see, the market is starting to kind of do the same. We'll see if there are any rotations kind of going into the next few hours, because I'll be about. I think it is worth its plus EV trying to stay about a bit for these kind of events. Yeah. Thank you all for being here. If you've liked the stream, hit subscribe on YouTube or whatever the equivalent is on Twitch. I'll do the same thing next week. If you want to show me some love, sign up to Bybit, deposit some money, and there's a chance to win $500. Just got to fill in a form and just literally pop your UID in there and stuff. I think that closes next week. So, yeah. Jump on in. Trade, make monies. Do all that wonderful stuff. Yeah, I'm genuinely glad to be back on Bybit. And yeah, cheers everyone. I will love you, leave you, and I'll see you next week. Stay safe, more importantly. Don't get fucking liquidated on a 1 minute candle. If any of you get liquidated, I'm telling your mum. Right. revoir.
He's BTC Charlie with his linguini charting. He loses sometimes, but hardly. He's BTC Charlie. But now he's GBP Charlie. It doesn't matter what he's charting. His trading is tough, but it's not all that bad with Charlie. He's got memes in the morning and more in the evening. It's Charlie. And when trading gets hard and support starts to lean, search Charlie.